Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and welcome back to another Mario Party minigame ranking video. The last minigame ranking video, as a matter of fact. At least as of right now anyway, because we are now at Mario Party Superstars. It's crazy to think that when I first started this series, at least in terms of its general conception anyway, this game wasn't even released yet, so it feels pretty nice to be able to say that we've completely circled around the entire franchise now. And with the large amount of hype that Superstars has drummed up, I'm sure this list will be quite intriguing to see the final results for. I will say though, it is quite unfortunate that this game never got any DLC though, and I suppose it still could, and if it does, I'll eat those words and make an addendum video of sorts to this ranking, but I'm pretty confident this is it with Superstars. With only 100 more minigames to rank, and 100% of these minigames being ones we've already ranked before, I'm excited and looking forward to wrapping this series up for good, so I could potentially move on to some other things to rank for once. Like with Mario Party the Top 100, I'm expecting to be moving through this list pretty quickly, as we've ranked all of these games before, in some cases twice before, so I won't have too much more to say about these. Unless for some reason these games feel radically different to play on this version, or something gets implemented that changes how I feel about the game in question. And trust me, there are some that fit that bill, so don't expect a complete copy of the list from Top 100. Heck, there are a number of games here that weren't even in the Top 100, so that will create some differences already. Oh, also, I'm not including the item minigames this time because unlike Mario Party 2 and 3, there is no way to play these games outside of a party mode match, and that was the main requirement for minigames to be a part of the ranking to begin with. As usual though, after this list is over, I'll rank them all against each other since they are technically returning minigames, but that's all I'm going to be doing with those. So, without further delay, let's get right into my minigame ranking for Mario Party Superstars. As usual, this list is purely my opinion, so don't be surprised if our picks might not line up exactly. That's kind of the point of an individual ranking video. However, feel free to share your thoughts in the video description below if you feel differently, but please do so in a constructive and friendly manner. Thank you for your time, and let's get this list started. Number 100. You guys will never guess what minigame I have on the bottom here.
Bowser's Big Blast.
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 Oh. Well, maybe you can. I'm sorry guys, call me a hater as much as you want, but I just don't like the idea of this game, and I never have. What makes this probably the absolute worst version of Bowser's Big Blast, though, is the fact that it's so freaking slow in this version, too. Some will say it builds suspense. To me, it builds impatience and annoyance. I hate this game. Number 99, Hide and Sneak. Hide and Go Boom got replaced by this one, and I honestly don't even know if that's even an improvement or not. Really the same idea, just with the team not locked to one button the entire time. Although I think I prefer it the other way, just to make it a little more fair for the solo player. Number 98, Spin Doctor. Let me get this straight. You decide to only have 5 dual minigames this time, and of all the good dual minigames from Mario Party 7, this is the one you go with? It's not entirely luck-based, but definitely feels that way if you get forced down an incorrect path. Ugh, really bad decision here. Number 97, Snow World. And number 96, Trapeze Artist. Hey, look, these two again. The same abysmal pair of games from Mario Party 6. But yeah, still not fond of either one. This is probably the best Snow World has ever felt, but it's just so hard to stay on top of your button rotation without messing up. And no, hate me all you want, but I'm not accepting the shirt method as a counter for making this a better minigame, as that was clearly not intended. And as far as Trapeze Artist is concerned, it's a one-button press reaction to determine placement with random AI Goombas, so still pretty mediocre. Number 95, Pokey Pummel. And number 94, Mecha Marathon. And Number 93, Piranha's Pursuit. One more for the road, guys. They're all button mashers. I will say, though, I do prefer these versions over previous iterations. Mecha Marathon feels a bit more lenient with input detection, and I feel like the team at least has more of a chance in Piranha's Pursuit, but these are fractional improvements at the absolute best. Number 92, Title Toss. Top 100s is still probably the best version of this minigame. In this game, I don't know, it just feels really awkward playing as the team of 3, making it really hard to enjoy this one on either side. Number 91, Tug of War. Hey Nintendo, piece of advice when it comes to this minigame. Stop! Rotating the control stick is not a good gameplay quirk for this type of minigame, and I'm not coming off of that hill. I will say, it's not the worst, especially since control sticks are so much better these days, but not using this anymore sounds like a more appealing prospect for you. Number 90, Flash Forward. I miss Slapperazzi from Super Mario Party. Heck, the fact that a much better version of this concept exists already by this point just makes it feel even worse by comparison. Too short, only one round, awkward mechanics, same old song and dance. Number 89, Nightlight Fright, and number 88, Tackle Takedown. Putting these together because they're kind of part of the whole one and done mentality. One chance to score big or go home, and that's pretty much all that needs to be said about these. I feel like they are a little better and more reasonable than the Goomba trapping game though, which is why they are a bit higher. Number 87, Sneak and Snore. I wasn't super crazy about them bringing this game back, but I will say they at least made it a little better by making it feel easier to retreat back into your barrel. The Chain Chomp definitely feels more erratic though, so it's still a game I'd rather not get if possible, but at least I'm a little more forgiving of it now. Number 86, Quicksand Cache. I guess it's not really a bad minigame, just kind of eh. This game not only has better 1 vs 3 minigames, but even just better 1 vs 3 coin minigames. I also think this game just works better as a 1 vs 3 coin free-for-all, where each player gets what they collect, as pooling the team of 3 together just makes it easier for them to pull ahead of the solo player. Number 85, Archer Rival, and number 84, Skewer Scurry. A few more meh 1 vs 3s. Not bad, but I wouldn't say glaringly good either. Archer Rival actually throws me off quite a bit when comparing it to the original, as the timing feels a lot different to me. And Skewer Scurry, well, it pretty much doesn't change at all, but it was already kind of bland to begin with. Number 83, Pit Boss. This is basically Ice Rink Risk, but harder due to much less space and with much more to lose since it's a Bowser minigame. Yeah, that's all I got, I'm afraid. Number 82, Picking Panic. Not a bad game, but kind of difficult to get in rhythm for, as each berry has a different weight and timing to throw and catch, respectively. Meaning, unless you play this game a lot, you'll have to constantly refigure out everything each time you play. Number 81, Look Away. Well, they fixed Look Away, kind of. I don't know, I feel like it's more reasonable or manageable to solidify your final inputs in this exercise, but there are definitely still better games for this category. Also, I feel like this version loses a bit of its quirkiness with its tighter animations, making it look more strange than silly. Although, I do like how Birdo winks at you whenever she avoids capture. She is seriously such a flirt. I think Slim Bowser and her would actually make a very appropriately cute couple. Number 80, Manner of Escape. One of those kind of luck-based minigames where it's not entirely luck-based and you can kind of figure out the solution by paying attention to what you and your rivals find out. But at the end of the day, whoever guesses right on the last row can easily snipe victory here, so it loses a lot of points because of that. Number 79, Puddle Paddle. It's an okay team-based coin collecting game, little bit of luck involved with where the coin bags spawn, so your games are a little out of your hands, but at least you can grab something here. Number 78, Boulder Ball, and number 77, Spotlight Swim. guess it's fitting that two Mario Party 3 1 vs 3 games are together, and really my problem with both of them is the same, where it feels like the single player is quite a bit disadvantaged. The former just feels like they need a good boulder toss to catch the team off guard, and for the latter, they almost need to not only fake out the team, but also hope the team isn't in sync as much with each other either. They're okay, but nothing spectacular as far as minigames are concerned. Number 76, Etch and Catch, and number 75, Speed Hockey. Another set of games from the same 2 vs 2 genre, this time from different titles, however. Overall, these games aren't too bad, but can definitely get away from you pretty easily. The former depends on how your teammate coordinates with you, and the latter because of how fast and erratic the hockey puck can move. I don't hate that these games are here, though. They're just not some of my favorites. Number 74, Bill Blasters, and number 73, Bumper Balloon Cars. Putting these together because they both kind of have that targeting mentality that I'm not crazy about in free-for-alls. In other words, if you are in first place, you are probably not winning this one, as your competitors will be out for blood. Given, it's a little hard to time Bill Blasters just right, which shouldn't make it a complete shutout by any means, and I will say, I do like that Bumper Balloon Cars at least feels better to play in this version, and if you make truces with your opponent, then you can both still win coins if you just remain until the end. That is, if your opponent wants to do that. Number 72, Bombs Away. Significantly lower than how this is performed in other Mario Party games, because I don't know how or why, but this version just does not feel right to play. The platform seriously feels super slippery, and although I get why, since it's a tilting island surrounded by water after all, I don't know, it just feels much easier to slip off here than it does in other versions, which makes it lose quite a bit of points from me. Number 71, Catch You Later. I would put this higher, but I swear the Shy Guy here seriously wants nothing to do with me when I play this minigame. I've been literally right next to him and had him turn completely around and away from me without him even taking my letter before, and that's not fun when the mailman taking your mail is the only way to get points. Like the last game, previous iterations just felt more lenient to me. Number 70, Leaf Leap. Very simple game of jumping left and right depending on where the next leaf is. Good for those who want to test how quick their reactions and reflexes are, but I'd rather play games with more emphasis on the platforming, as we'll get into later. Number 69, Dungeon Dash. Random thought, but I do like how Top 100 had Mario Party 1's version of this, while this game had Mario Party 2's, the superior one. Not superior by much, mind you, considering the game is pretty much the same with a different backdrop, and one extra obstacle to worry about. But still, it's alright. No major complaints here, but nothing super substantial either. Number 68, Winner or Dinner. Decent coin collecting minigame with a hilarious closing cutscene where everyone died. The end. Number 67, Ice Hockey. As described before, it's a pretty basic version of hockey, and I get why it's included, although I do personally enjoy the other sports minigames more. I suppose this does get some extra points though, considering you can get some extra mileage out of this game online, in the Sports and Puzzles ranked mode at least. It's probably the most based mode in Mount Minigames for online play as it is, so it's really good that it has that going for it. Number 66, 2-Bit or Lose It, and number 65, Pogo A Go-Go. Really not much change for either of these minigames. They're fine. Giving a slight edge to Pogos over Tubes though, just because I feel like Tubes ends just a bit too quickly for the one player personally. Number 64, Goal! Probably the best version of this minigame. They made the net a little wider to make things a little easier for the team, while also giving the solo player more control over their movement, although it might still be slightly in the team's favor. Number 63, Cheep Cheep Chase. Talk about improvements. The developers did wonders with this game in putting the diving input on the control stick instead of another button. Just feels like it flows nicer as a result. Plus, the AI isn't OP as hell in this game either. I will say though, it's still a bit too long for my liking, especially when it's a button masher. Number 62, Honeycomb Havoc. I will always have a special place in my heart for this minigame, even though I do recognize it as being a little luck dependent and a bit too mind gamey. just a matter of knowing the best dice to aim for during your turn, and it gets significantly easier the longer you last. Number 61, Cake Factory. I really don't know which version of this is best, considering they probably all have different timings between them. I think ultimately Top 100 had the best version, and while I do think this is my least favorite iteration, at the core it still plays the same and is just fine. It just has a slightly different timing that might throw you off. That's all. Number 60, Money Belts. Another coin collecting game for the 1 vs 3 category, and way better than Quicksand Cash. It at least feels better to play as the solo player anyway, although the solo player could end up really screwing over the team if they have a good run. Either way, I do like how they gave the solo player a little more room to roam here, as the original version's area seemed very small by comparison. Number 59, Reverse the Bomb. Would like to rank this higher, but I feel like the up and down movements could have been a little tighter for this one. Sometimes I find myself either advancing too far or not advancing at all when I'm just trying to move up or down one position. Aside from that though, I still think it's a good game. Number 58, Dinger Derby. Not much to say about this one, as it doesn't really change at all. It's still good though. Number 57, Stick and Spin. Like I said for Ice Hockey, the Mount Minigames mode does give this game a little extra spice for high score and ranking reasons, but it's still probably the lowest ranked puzzle game for me of the 3 featured in this title. Also, just as an FYI, I'm not considering achievement difficulty for these rankings. Doesn't really seem like it would be fair to, considering they're optional goal-oriented tasks that don't really take the game's main quality into consideration. So, I know there's a lot of people who have spent hours getting that achievement, but that's not going to affect my personal ranking here. Number 56, Handcar Havoc. This honestly might be the best version of Handcar Havoc in the entire series. Yeah, it's a button masher, and yeah, you have to make sure team cooperation is on point, but unlike Mario Party 1, I think this game at least does a good job of telegraphing when your cart is about to tip over. So if you and your partner are paying attention enough, you can at least take care of it as soon as you notice it tilting. Definitely feels the most realistic, and not in an annoying way either. Number 55, Parasol Plummet. Pretty standard 4-player coin minigame. Don't have much to add here. Number 54, Balloon Burst. Interesting modification of the 2 vs 2 Balloon Burst gimmick, as the pumping is handled in a slightly different manner here, and I honestly don't mind that. Definitely have to get used to it if you're too used to the old version, but I think it depicts the timing well enough. Number 53, Ice Rink Risk. Take a lesson, Pit Boss. This is a better way to handle this idea. Still hate that shells dropping from the sky can still screw you over when you least expect it, but at least the area is bigger and it feels like there's more room to roam, so it's a more than decent survival minigame at the end of the day. Number 52, Bounce and Trounce. I've grown more of an appreciation for this game over time, including its original variant in Mario Party 3, and this is probably the best version of the game just because it feels pretty good to control. I guess the only thing I'd want for this one is maybe a slightly bigger arena, just to give more room to roam. It could still break away at the same pace and everything, but maybe just to give a little more variation of this one. Number 51, Castaways. Hey look, another game that features control stick spinning. Thankfully, the spinning was never really that bad here to begin with, and even still, you reel in pretty quickly if you don't end up grabbing anything, so it already kind of minimizes the struggle if you aren't the fastest control stick spinner. Anyway, for this one, it's a coin game, so you really only have coins to gain here. There is a bit of an adjustment time required for getting the right timing down, and I personally struggle with getting anything that isn't in the back row, but I do think this is a pretty solid coin game, all things considered. Number 50, Motor Rooter. Thank God, this game feels so much better than it does in Mario Party 3. This feels so much less slippery, which actually makes it a pretty decent dual minigame as a result. It can still be difficult preparing for the electric barriers or getting enough boost pads, since you only get so much time to react to the upcoming layout, but it's way more manageable this time, which I really, really appreciate. Number 49, Coconut Conk. I don't think this game is really that bad, although I don't think it's amazing either. Sometimes it can be a little hard for the team of 3 to come together to get the right positioning down without getting in each other's way, but the single player has to stay pretty focused on their movements too, so it kinda works out, I guess. Number 48, Squared Away. I've always felt that this was a pretty solid and balanced 1 vs 3 game. I'm not super crazy about it, but it doesn't really have any negatives for me either. It works for what it does. Number 47, Paint Misbehavin'. I do feel like this game's choices from Mario Party 8 are pretty lacking, especially since they only picked 2 minigames to begin with. Come on, Nintendo, where is my mosh pit playroom? Anyway, all things considered, this game is fine. Pretty standard fare for 2 vs 2 minigames. Number 46, Burn Style. Pretty much 2 vs 2 Hot Rope Jump, and although I do love Hot Rope Jump, this gets fast pretty quickly and it's a bit harder to time, which is why this is a bit lower. Still a pretty good 2 vs 2 minigame though. Number 45, Monty's Revenge. Basically playing a game of chicken with the Monty Moles and trying to stay above ground as much as possible. It's good, and that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Number 44, Rapid River Race. This was a really hard one to watch fall, because this was actually my Mario Party 10 video's top 10, and I honestly would have it closer up there again, but I swear, I don't know what they did, but the left and right movement is way too sensitive here. Sometimes after pressing the movement in one direction, it immediately jumps back to the initial position, and in a game where you need those very precise movements, it admittedly adds a bit of frustration. I still love the idea and concept, but I definitely don't enjoy this game as much as I used to. Number 43, Rockin' Raceway. I'll be the first to admit it, and admittedly I say this a lot, but I really wish some of these games would have added more variations, just to spice them up a little bit. Heck, even this one could have tried making the course a little longer, or adding more different carrot placements, just to make it a little more interesting, and not just the same exercise every single time. It's still fine, don't get me wrong, but could be so much more. Number 42, What Goes Up. Am I glad they brought this minigame back? Yes. Do I wish they would have included the nighttime version in some way? Yes. Do I still think this is a good game, despite how tricky it can be jumping from paratroopa to paratroopa, and how punishing it is to fall in certain places? Yes. Should we move on to the next game then? Yes. Number 41, Mario's Puzzle Party. Pretty decent puzzle minigame, especially since it has a good free-for-all component, and a good single-player high-score variation as well. Although, admittedly, it turns pretty quickly into a quick-drop spam simulator, which is why it loses some points with me. Number 40, Blockstar. Once again, this game claims puzzle superiority as the best puzzle minigame in a game with multiple puzzle minigames. At least when Bob-omb Breakers is an option. Seriously, why don't they bring that minigame back more? Anyway, not much more to say about this game. It's good, and Mount Minigames gives it more time to shine as well, so rock on, Blockstar. Number 39, River Raiders. If the single player is smart and calculated, they can take quite a number of coins away from the team in this one, but I feel like that's fair considering the circumstances. Honestly, it feels pretty balanced as a 1 vs 3 coin collector. Definitely the best this game has to offer, that's for sure. Number 38, Hammer Drop. It's pretty cool that they brought this game back. Heck, even the arena is a little bigger to give you more room to roam, which is also nice. One very noteworthy problem though, Hammer Bros drops way too many coin bags. The fact that I regularly see some players leaving this game with 40, sometimes even 50 coins, just shows that maybe he's being just a bit too generous here. Just saying. Number 37, Bumper Balls. This is honestly the best I think Bumper Balls is ever going to get. Feels pretty good to control, has different course variations, and I feel like stalemates are much less common. Hell, even if a stalemate does happen, all the remaining players at least get rewarded for it, so there's still an incentive to keep things going instead of just bowing out early. Number 36, Shell Soccer. This might be surprisingly a lot higher than you would probably expect, but I actually grew an appreciation for this minigame through the online sports and puzzles mode. Heck, when this game first came out and I was streaming it a bunch, me and Madame Wario actually marathoned playing against each other in this minigame a couple of times during my stream, and it was pretty fun. It's very short and sweet, allowing for multiple rounds, and it can get pretty heated in a competitive sense. My only complaint is that I wish I had some slightly different variations, or different layouts to make it a little more interesting. Otherwise, it's a pretty underrated sports game. Number 35, Cashapult. Textbook 2 vs 2 coin game. Very faithful, practically unchanged from its original version, and just a nice fair way to get coins at the end of a turn, without getting an obsessive amount like in Hammer Drop or Castaways. Number 34, X-Ray Payday. Funny that the developers decided to include both Money Belt games in this title, pretty much forcing a name change on one of them to avoid confusion. I like the name though, I think it's pretty clever and funny honestly. Also, the game's pretty solid too. Very easy, but hey, it keeps you on your toes and rewards those who pay attention, without other players getting in the way. Number 33, Mass Meteor. This wasn't a duel minigame I was expecting to come back, especially considering how strong Mario Party 6's duel lineup is, but I suppose it's fine enough. Basically comes down to who gets hit the least amount of times though, as a knowledgeable player will know to hold right after making it through the last asteroid. Number 32, Dark and Crispy. Not my favorite Bowser minigame from the GameCube era, but it serves its purpose well enough as a survive to not lose coins win condition. Just watch those edges, as it can be pretty easy to fall off. Number 31, The Final Countdown. The first time I felt Final Countdown was outright superior over its Bombs Away counterpart, just because I feel you have more control over your character, and the floor isn't super slippery. You just have to pay attention to those numbers. Number 30, Roll Call. And number 29, Goomba Spotting. Can't have a Mario Party game without counting minigames, and hey, they actually included the best too. Thankfully, Roll Call has all of its variations back from Top 100, but I do think Goomba Spotting is probably the best one, just because it does remove the potential copying factor. Number 28, Vine With Me. Just like the original, it's a pretty solid duel challenge. Timing might feel a little off compared to the original, and I probably prefer the original personally, but it's just a matter of getting used to the timing. Number 27, Slot Car Derby. Again, I probably love this game more than most, but I think it personally works as a racing game that just needs the right amount of moderation, optimization, and finesse when it comes to movement, where you need to pick the right moments to go fast and to ease off of the acceleration. I do find it a bit easier to spin out in this version compared to others though, so it does lose a little steam for me, but not much. Number 26, Storm Chasers. I could see this game being higher or lower, honestly. It's a pretty solid free-for-all concept, but I could see people feeling like it's too hard to get under the rain cloud when up against everyone else. But I find that it honestly just varies from time to time. Overall, it's a pretty solid minigame. Number 25, Beach Volley Folly. Volleyball remains supreme as the best extra sports minigame featured in a Mario Party game, and having online for this, as well as a ranked mode, does give it a little more appeal. 25th may seem a bit low, but we are entering the last fourth of the ranking here, and there are so many killer titles for the closing stretch of this list, so I guess I'm not too surprised. Number 24, Shy Guy Says. I know I've spoken very fondly of this game in the past as a game that's even had a few top 10 appearances as well, but like I've said for the last game, the top of this list is stacked, and while I still like this version, I just think the original Mario Party 1 variant, and even the top 100 version, is just a bit better. I think it's just the delayed Shy Guy reactions that throw me off, adding extra tension when it just doesn't really need it. Number 23, Chip Shot Challenge. Like with the top 100 version, I still love this game, but the mechanics just feel a bit too different for me. Mainly just an adjustment thing, so I won't dock it too many points, but I definitely feel more in sync with the original. Number 22, Eats a Pizza. Funnily enough, I think this game actually gets a bit harder against AI, but as a straight up 2 vs 2 all-human duel, I think it does the job very, very well. Also, it's pizza, and who doesn't love pizza? Number 21, Trace Race. If you don't know why I'm laughing, you'll likely find out shortly. Anyway, as usual, it's a really solid precision and accuracy test. Always been a fan of these games, so close to the top of the list this will continue to be. Number 20, Crazy Cutters. Maybe it's just perception bias, but I really feel like they fixed the grading rubric for this minigame. Sure, there might be an instance or two where it gives a few points higher or lower than you expect, but I feel that range is not as unpredictable as it was in Mario Party 1. At least for me, anyway. Number 19, Facelift. See? All 3 percentage grading games in a row. How about that? And yeah, that's what I was laughing at earlier. Yeah, Facelift took a small hit in this one compared to its previous rankings, but I honestly do feel like it's a bit harder to get the feel for this version. Plus, I do think the stylus controls of Top 100's version are slightly preferable now than trying to manage stick inputs. Plus, I kind of feel like the timer is a little more strict here, and it expects more precise movements instead of just the extremes. Which, while not necessarily a bad thing, it does make the game a little less enjoyable for me personally. Only a little though, because it's still a great minigame, but again, it could have been a bit better. Also, would have been nice if it was more than just Bowser's face, just for a little more variety. I mean, after all, Mario Party 2 did that. Number 18, Tick Tock Hop. Best duel game of Mario Party Superstars, easily. Has the endurance factor, which is always good, but also a nice test of reflexes as well. Plus, much like some of the other games we'll be seeing later, even has a single-player variation where you can not only practice, but try to aim for a high endurance score that doesn't end after your opposition falls off. Definitely something that was missing from this back in Mario Party 3, but hey, I'm glad it's here now. Number 17, Bobsled Run. I was actually kind of surprised this wasn't brought back in Top 100, but again, it's here now, which is all that matters. Not to mention, I actually kind of dig having new record 2 vs 2 minigames in this title, because with online play, you can actually team up with non-local friends and test your mettle against other players worldwide, which is pretty neat. Anyway, if you like Bobsled Run in the original games, you'll like it here too. Although the bobsled turning is a bit tighter in this version, and requires definite full cooperation with your teammate, so be very careful when making movements and turns. Otherwise, you'll either fall off or be making out with the nearest wall. Also, kinda wish they had both Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 2 variants of this game. It's definitely more based on the original, but the second game actually had branching paths, which would have given this a bit of variety here, I think. It's still really good though, and definitely a highlight of the Series 2 vs 2 library. Number 16, Later Skater. Can't keep a simple but very good racing game down. Seriously, add some more variations to this with different layouts, and this would be a free and easy top 10 contender. Top 20 is still very good though. Number 15, Coney Island, and number 14, Pushy Penguins. I swear, you just can't separate these two. They've been right next to each other in Mario Party 5's list, Top 100's list, and now Superstars as well. They're both just really good, and I don't have much to say beyond that. I do prefer Pushy Penguins just a touch more, and although some of the shadows can be difficult to see in this version of Coney Island, it's a very minimal complaint at most. Number 13, Mush Pit. I still don't care for the new name of this minigame, but hey, it doesn't change how cool of a minigame it is. Plus, it's probably the best controlling version of this game all around when compared to the N64 controller and a 3DS. So, keep up the good work, Toadstool Titan. Yes, I used the original name, sue me. Number 12, Mushroom Mix-Up. A little bit of a drop from prior placements of this minigame and its Mario Party 2 sister, Hexagon Heat, but I think that's less of a problem with this minigame, and more of just what the rest of this list offers. I will say, the physics and movements of this game are very different from what you would expect, since ground pounding and jumping on other players will have slightly different effects here than they would in prior versions, but I actually kind of feel like it still works. Although it can be pretty nerve-wracking being in the air for so long and hoping that you manage to land safely so you can at least get control of your character again to make the next mushroom movement. It can be chaotic, but the good kind of chaos, I think. Number 11, Tread Carefully. Hey look, another game with a different name! I can at least understand the name switch here though, because Shell-Shocked is the name of a condition related to war trauma, so I will not make a big stink about this change. Plus, the name is kinda clever too. Anyway, this game is still pretty great, and they actually brought back its other variations that were mysteriously absent in Top 100 as well. So, good call on that one, devs. My only issue with this is, again, some courses can really encourage targeting a specific player, which I'm not crazy about, but the last variation has enough cover to at least mitigate that mentality a little bit, so that at least qualms most of my concerns. Number 10. Yay! We're almost there, guys. Our first entrant into the top 10 is a game that was unfortunately absent in Top 100, And I don't really understand why, because I have always seen it as an OG Mario Party classic, and that of course is Tipsy Tourney. There may be a small bit of bias here, as this was one of the very first Mario Party minigames I ever saw and played, but it's always been one of my favorites, and I think it's a pretty nifty exercise in control and movement. So, hey, no surprises here when it comes to me tilting the honors in this minigame's favor. Number 9. Here is another game I am surprised the developers forgot about in Mario Party the Top 100. I guess you could blame their messy memory for this exclusion, if you catch my drift.
That was awful, horrible, truly terrible.
Hey, segues are not as easy as you may think. Also, why the heck are you here anyway?
All will be explained within time. Just get back to your shtick.
Okay then. Anyway, I know this game may not seem super special to others, but I don't know. I've always been fond of this test of memory skill. I think they could have potentially introduced some additional items to increase the challenge or difficulty a little, but I still think it's fine the way it is. If you have trouble with this one, I personally recommend making a short story out of the items to refresh yourself on the order. Stuff like Mario hit Wario with a hammer to get back his bananas, or Luigi wore a tie while eating eggs with the princess. Silly little things like that can really help you, and I think it kind of adds to this game's personal charm. Number 8. We're really starting to get into this game's golden stuff, as I'm pretty certain every game from here on out has been in the top 5 at some point. So, let's start with this game from Mario Party 6, which may be the first time this game hasn't been in the top 5, Rocky Road. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Superstars has some really great 2 vs 2 games, and this one is no exception. It's a great cooperative exercise, as long as you don't accidentally hit your ally, and the only thing holding this back from getting higher is really just the sole fact that it's the same course every single time you play it. Heck, really begs the question, why doesn't this have a new record feature? Oh well, despite that negative, it's a really great game, and I'm glad it's here to stay. Number 7. While some may find it a little underwhelming that so many of these returning minigames were already returning in Top 100, I'm just happy they kept Top 100's version of Dizzy Dancing, because they could have just as easily reverted back to its original one-and-done exercise. But no, let the chaos commence as you dizzily jump around trying to grab the most music notes. Seriously, this was an incredible modification that Top 100 made, and I'm glad they kept it for this game as well. Really makes this game stand out a whole lot more than its original version. Number 6. I don't care who you are or how much you're offering to give me, you couldn't get me to walk on a tiny thin walkway above a massive canyon to save my life. Now, if you just want me to play Paths of Peril, sure, hold my water bottle and let me show you how it's done. But what do you expect from a classic minigame like this? Combine that with the solid control that I feel like you have over your character, and this game shouldn't feel too difficult for anyone to manage. Sure, it lost its top 5 status this time, but it was pretty damn close to being back there again, which is a testament to how good this game continues to be. Number 5. This was a game I didn't know I really wanted to come back and see again until I saw it, played it, and remembered, oh yeah, this game is kind of freaking amazing, isn't it? And that game is Sky Pilots, a 2 vs 2 minigame where you really have to work in harmony with your partner to beat the other team. I like this game because both players contribute in 2 different unique but equally important ways, as one directs the aircraft and the other controls the speed. I would say the steerer has the more engaging role, but you'd be surprised to know that speed control can have just as much of an impact, especially when trying to avoid the bullets that will be firing at you constantly, so don't sleep on either job here. Also, it's a new record game, and when you consider the fact that you can team up with anyone in the entire world with online play, you can quite literally try and fight for a world record time in this game. Me and my friend Bowser 2 Queen actually managed to get a time in the top 50 at one point, and that was pretty cool to think that we were only like a second or 2 away from getting the absolute best time in the entire world. It's a neat prospect, not gonna lie. Really, the only negative here is that it's just one course variation, and the speed controls are basically button mashing, or rather stick flicking mashing, but still, this game flies high for me and is quite easily one of the best 2 versus 2 experiences to ever exist in Mario Party. Number 4. I think it's time we start acknowledging some of the past number 1s. So let's start with a game that's probably seen as very repetitive in terms of control and objective, but a game that can get quite heated in terms of its overall endurance challenging concept. That's right, Hot Rope Jump is back, my number 1 candidate from Mario Party 2, and it continues to not skip a single beat from its original rendition. Heck, Superstars even added the one thing I asked for back in Mario Party 2's list, and that's the ability to play on until everyone is eliminated. At least in a free play setting anyway. So if you did ever want to grind this out and see how far you can get, you can definitely do that now. Seriously, how can such a simple concept be this engaging? I don't know, but it is, and it works phenomenally. Number 3. We're moving on up the list in a number of ways because Mario Party 3's number 1 game is also back in the form of Snowball Summit. I don't have much to say about this one that I haven't said in other lists. It's just a really good survival and knockout game with various strategies you can use for success. Heck, this is a game I actually like getting in the online ranked mode when trying to aim for a high win streak, because if you make your intentions clear to all your opponents that you will not eliminate them if they don't eliminate you, you can actually use this game as a freebie, since every survivor wins and doesn't force the game in a draw. So yeah, this game still manages to score some really good points with me. Number 2. Unfortunately, the Superstar devs decided to exclude Hotel Goomba in this game for some reason, which means this list needs a different minigame to take the place in between Snowball Summit and Book Squirm. Well, how about... Wait a minute! Book Squirm at number 2? That's right, folks. After being the number 1 game in both Mario Party 4 and Mario Party The Top 100, Book Squirm is actually number 2 here. And really, it's not because this game is worse, make no mistake about that. This game feels just as good as it ever has. And if anything, the controls for this using the Pro Controller feel probably the most fluid of all 3 iterations. This is just more of a case of the number 1 game doing more than this game doing less. Still though, this is probably the closest the list has ever come down to 2 contenders fighting for the number 1 crown. And Book Squirm is and will always be a classic minigame because of what it does bring to the table. An exciting sudden death survival game, the fact you can turn it into an endurance challenge to see how far you can go, the silly and fun nature of the game to begin with. It's got a lot going for it and will always be one of the best minigames of the entire series. Heck, I mean, it's the highest ranked Mario Party 4 minigame on this list, right? Right? Well, about that statement, I have actually selected Dungeon Duos to be my number 1 minigame in Mario Party Superstars. And the reason why I picked this one, this game could have so easily been the best minigame in Mario Party 4 if it wasn't for one very obvious flaw. And that flaw was how the hot air balloon pumping controls worked in the original game. I swear, having the final stage of this minigame come down to how you pump air into a balloon with your teammate and not really getting any sort of indication for how you were doing it right or doing it wrong always made the ending of that game such a bummer for me if I got past at the very end after having a nearly flawless run otherwise. Thankfully though, Superstars fixed this problem, so now the game is pretty much perfect. Now, obviously, perfection is subjective, and I know people tend to harp on the jump physics of landing on the spinning platforms in the second phase, but to me, that's less of a problem with this game and more of just how people are used to the original physics compared to this one's. Once I realize the difference, it feels just as fine as the OG, so it really doesn't bother me that much. Honestly, this game is just epic in every sense of the word. It's an obstacle course with platforming elements, always a bonus for me, a really good team cooperation exercise, and despite featuring instances of button mashing and luck, they are at least decent implementations of them, where you aren't spamming the mashing for the entire game just for a second or two, and the luck-based pipe section really just comes down to how well you and your teammate divide up which pipes you search and pay attention to what ones have been used so you can narrow down your hunt. So yeah, this game is awesome. And hey, for those who like hunting for that optimal time or world record, guess what? You can actually do that here. Assuming, you don't mind the RNG for the warp pipes near the end anyway. But still, it's a game that offers so much, improved itself over its original version when it was already a top-tier minigame to begin with. Bringing all of those things to the table really shows what this is a game with superstar potential. So, I can think of no better title for Dungeon Duos being the best minigame in Mario Party Superstars. Well guys, we've done it. We've ranked all the minigames in Mario Party Superstars, and with that, we can put a pin in another ranking list for this channel, and I can finally say the words that I've been wanting to say for so very long now. We are now done with ranking all the minigames from each Mario Party installment in the entire series. Hey, wait a second. Where did the music go? Slim Bowser, this is the reason why you suddenly appeared in this video, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, I guess we aren't done yet, but we still have a few months before this game comes out. Not to mention, I'm gonna need some additional time to spend with the minigames too, especially considering this will have more minigames than any other Mario Party game so far, according to the initial announcement. So please, do not expect me to get this list done anytime soon after the game comes out. For now, I'm moving on to some other list ideas that I had in mind. Plus, I even mentioned making my own top 100 roster, which you guys said you'd be interested in seeing as well, so I might do some of those ideas first. Still though, it was fun going through all of the Mario Party games again, and giving my updated and expanded rankings on all the minigames in this series. It was a long process, but it was very rewarding as well, and I hope you guys enjoyed the ride. Also, before I forget, the item minigames, in order from best to worst, I have Row Out the Barrels, Hammer Slammer, Bobbing Balloons, Swinging with Sharks, and Winner's Wheel. Basically in order from how easy to how hard it is to guarantee getting the item you want. So, not much to say there. But yeah, that's all I got, so I think I'm gonna sign off and leave it at that. Got any last things you want to say before we leave, Slim Bowser? Slim Bowser?
Yeah! I'm playable again! They made me playable again! This is the greatest news since I was voted most awesome and sexiest alter ego on YouTube. In your face, haters! You're not getting rid of me that easily!
Wow, way to show yourself with dignity and class, Slim Bowser. I'm sure it'll be great pleasure having you on board again. But until that time comes, this has been SlimKirby, reminding you all to keep on partying on until Mario Party Jamboree comes out, and I will see all you fine folk next time. Later, folks.
Bowser's Big Blast! Bowser's Big Blast! Bowser's Big Blast!